Hi, welcome to the Hang Up. I've been sitting here prepared and had everything written down for hours, all day long, probably. There's not a chance that I just managed to get ready 2 seconds before that intro finished. I'm a liar. I'm lying. I did just get finished. How is everybody doing? Welcome to another episode of the Hang Up. And, I'm told it's Ash Wednesday, but I don't care. You people can keep filthying yourself up for your fictional friend all you want. The rest of us are dealing with the real things in this world, not the least of which is war. Now, I don't know how many wars are currently going on, but it's more than two. And on a number of occasions, Andrew and I have talked about the possibility of civil war. Jimmy and I and others have talked about the possibility of other potential wars, right up to, World War III. And Trump, when he berated Zelensky in the Oval Office the other day, the president of the United States mentioned World War III as a threat of, here's what you're risking. You're risking World War III, talking to the guy who's trying to save his people from an invasion from the very ruthless, murdering dictator that Trump is busy sucking up for and spouting out the propaganda on behalf of. See, because Trump likes tough guys, but he's not one. He's pretty soft boy. I mean, you see him out there golfing, which he cheats at it. He's a bad golfer. People have to lie to him and tell him he's good when he's not. And on some level, somewhere, he probably knows he's not good at golf. He's not all that smart. He's not a tough guy. He's a soft guy. He probably grasped that, which is why he needs constant affirmation, and why I think what happened in the Oval Office was him misunderstanding Zelensky and thinking Zelensky was threatening him when Zelensky said, you guys have a war, an ocean separating you from this now, but in the future, you'll be, involved. Kind of, there are issues. I think he misunderstood that as a threat because he's stupid. See, tough guys, genuinely tough guys, have some sort of ability. Now, a good chunk of them have physical abilities. A good chunk of them have mental abilities, and some of them have both. They have the ability to put a plan into action and take that action that in a way that could be beneficial to them or beneficial to others, beneficial to everyone. You could make the world a better place for everybody or a better place just for you. Trump isn't that. Trump is a bully using borrowed power. He doesn't have any physical or mental prowess of his own. He doesn't have any smart strategy or any way to implement it. He's implementing stupid strategies and being called out even by Trudeau, as Trudeau, decided to fluff him a little, saying, you're a smart guy, but this is a dumb move, which is a lie because he's not a smart guy. But yes, it is a dumb move. And when you don't have any physical or mental prowess of your own, you have to borrow the power. So Trump isn't being a tough guy with his power or his money. He's using your power. He's using my power. He's using our power. He's using his position as the president of the United States to use the reputation, the integrity, the military, and every other thing about the United States to make him appear to be tough and smart when he's neither. He's taking risks that he and his billionaire friends will almost certainly survive and or profit from, but you and I might not. You see, it's still early in his administration, so you can't really take a look at economics and say, "Ooh, here's what's happened in the month and a half that he's been in office, or month and a couple weeks that he's been in office." And we can't, how much can you blame on him? But in reality, the stock market's down. His tariffs are backfiring. They're talking about depression, recession, Trump session. Through the fourth quarter of 2024, real GDP, the measure of economic output, grew by 2.3%. That's not happening anymore. The average price of eggs in January 2025 was $4.95, which was a 19% increase over December. Oh, but that's still Biden's economic. Well, certainly there are aspects of it that are tied to Biden's economic policies, and some of it's tied to the fact that President Trump is now president. The average price of eggs in January was $5, almost $4.95, up 19%. Unemployment's at 4% and seems to be kind of steady. But job growth has slowed over the past year. We added fewer jobs than expected in January. Home sales have fallen to the lowest level in almost 30 years. Car prices are up 10K from pre-pandemic numbers. Trump's tariffs aren't actually working. They're backfiring. People are calling it stupid as it is. And the people that he's starting trade wars with are responding. He's announced a 1-month delay on the Canada-Mexico tariffs on cars. So your tough guy president with his tariffs that he's going to push at Canada and Mexico has already caved in much the same way that he managed to try to strong arm them into giving him what they were already giving him before. Oh, you're going to do this? Well, that's not good enough. I want you to do that thing that you're already going to do. And unless you do, I'm going to hold my breath. Oh, you're doing it? Thank you. I guess I'll hold off on those tariffs for a little while. The word is they're going to cut 80,000 jobs from Veterans Affairs. They are running around. There's a bunch of people, Trump and Musk and others, who are not very bright, not at all qualified or knowledgeable about the jobs that they're doing, not at all qualified or knowledgeable about what it takes to run aspects of the government. And yet they're going to run through and say, well, we're going to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. And we're going to start by getting rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse department because, screw those guys. That's what we're doing. And then we're going to cut 80,000 jobs from Veterans Affairs. And we're going to have one of our representatives talk about how some of these veterans they're not good enough to work for the government. When I started talking about wars, it set some people off. Oh, Matt's lost it. He's talking about, is there going to be a civil war? Matt's lost it. He and the others are talking about whether or not there's going to be a world war. The United States has halted intelligence sharing with Ukraine. Trump, in his address, lied nonstop about Ukraine and spread Russian propaganda. He is stupid and uninformed. He thought $8 million had been spent on making mice transgender. $8 million. First of all, in the grand scheme of the budget of the United States, $8 million is nothing. It's not a sizable reduction. But what they did was they went out and they looked at research. And because this is all being done by Project 2025 lackeys, and because they don't give a shit about the price of eggs, and because they don't care about you and your insulin, and because they don't care about you and your health care, and because they don't care about your kids, your finances, whether or not you'll ever be able to retire, or any of that, all they care about is power and their own money, and shitting on trans people and using trans people as a terrifying MacGuffin. Ooh, they're coming to trans your kids. You better vote for us so that we can destroy everything. The studies that they were talking about with mice were referred to transgenic mice, which isn't the same as transgender mice. There's no such thing as transgender mice because mice don't have gender identities. There's a psychological component that goes beyond biology, which all of you transphobes have continually, I was going to say misunderstood, but now I'm just going to say lied about and misrepresented. This has been corrected so many times that there's no other way to look at it other than all of you transphobes are lying by complaining about things that aren't happening in an exaggerated fashion. The study, or there were several studies that were done on mice using transgenic mice, which means we're altering DNA. in order to use mice or pigs or any number of different animals as analogs for humans and others. And so one of the studies aimed to evaluate how gender-affirming care may impact the efficacy of HIV vaccinations, potentially helping scientists design a better vaccine. Another study looked into testosterone effects and how testosterone impacts the reproductive function in transgender men. I know, it's terrible. Why are we allowing any research on those trans folks? Oh, I know. Because they're human beings who are deserving of respect and dignity, and whose health issues are just as important as every other citizen's health issues. And so in the same way that we can put millions of dollars into finding pills to give us all boners, someday they're going to come up with a pill that gives people without penises boners. That's how much they're focused on getting wood. And we can spend millions on that. But if we spend any money to say, hey, for trans men, what are the impacts of testosterone so that we can do better in helping folks transition, getting them the best care available? Another study was about breast cancer risks in trans men. Another one was about how the microbiome in your gut could be impacted by hormone therapy. I mean, we have these wonder drugs that are causing so much weight loss. We have these notions that are just, hey, we can fundamentally change our gut biome, how we're eating, how this is impacting us. Let's get us all healthier and happier. Another one of the studies tried to understand female sex hormones and reproductive functions in trans men. And the sixth sought to better understand asthma in everybody, but it happened to include trans folks as one of the subgroups. And so the bigoted Project 2025 folks who desperately want to, oh, look, it's a trans person. They don't exist. But look, they're terrible. But look, they're going to trans your kids. Oh no, we found places where the government is spending money where it might help someone who's trans. You know what else? It might help someone who's blonde. It might help someone who's left-handed. It might help someone who's dealing with fertility issues. It might help someone who's dealing with weight issues. It might help someone who's dealing with diabetic issues. The fact that trans people were included in the study, and the fact that we are looking into various things about medical treatment for gender-affirming care, the fact that we're looking at it is a good thing. But nope, we got to cut some government waste and spending. And you know what? Hey, we just found $8 million in transgender mice. No, you didn't. That's not at all what happened. He's already caved on his tariffs. Oh, we're going to have a 1-month delay. So he's not a tough guy. He's a soft boy. He's a liar. And he's the president of the United States. And for all the people who were upset when I mentioned war, he started a trade war with Canada, Mexico, and China, while also setting up Panama, Greenland, and others as either distractions or new acquisitions, depending on how you want to look at it. While he talks about turning Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East, or the Eastern Med. I don't know how they're going to market it. This is the world we live in today. And what happened? This is a tweet that I'm going to read from the Chinese embassy in the United States of America. Quote, if war is what the United States wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end. Let me do this again just for clarity. The Chinese embassy, in response to ridiculous tariffs where they used lies about fentanyl to try to justify ridiculous tariffs on China, tweeted out in response to that, if war is what the U.S. wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we're ready to fight till the end. That's what the Chinese embassy said. I genuinely hope that nobody ends up in a war. I hope we resolve and get peace in Ukraine and Gaza and everywhere else where they're struggling in strife. But the reality is, that's not only not the trend, but the rhetoric from world leaders about war is spiraling up. It's increasing. And instantly, the United States went from being NATO allied, Europe allied, humanistically allied, aligned with our allies around the world, to saying, no, we're going to stand with Russia and Russian propaganda in opposition to Ukraine. And now the United States has stopped sharing intel with Ukraine. I don't have a button to put on this. I don't have one of Arden's cute little buttons. I don't have one of my, here's an interesting little twist and play on words to put on here. I have nothing to add to this. I do not understand the world that I find myself in. I am baffled at how a parade of legitimately uninformed and unintelligent and unethical people have taken over every aspect of government. The deputy director of the FBI is some podcaster who thinks that the FBI is corrupt and helped steal the 2020 election. That's the person who's going to be one of the most important people, if not, in some instances, the deputy director is more important because they're actually in the field doing, involved with the day-to-day running, whereas the other one's more of an administrative position. This is who's running the FBI now. And you have the richest man in the world with access to seemingly anything and everything and the ability to fire anyone and everyone. Once again, I don't have any buttons to put on this. I'm baffled. Tonight was supposed to be Jimmy's birthday, and so that's why down below the chat it says, can God give Jimmy the gift of evidence? Jimmy's not here tonight. He wasn't feeling well. I'm sorry. I'm more upset that he's sick on his birthday. I mean, sick any day sucks, but, just in case you were going to have some fun, you were going to do a show and everything else. So what that means is that you guys need to like and subscribe and do all kinds of super chats to me since Jimmy bailed. And to Promise, who's joining me tonight. Please welcome my friend, Promise. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing all right. All the news that's happening, like what you're saying, I feel the same. It's like there's nothing, and there's no bow to wrap on it. There's no and so now we're going to do this and it's going to fix everything, And then I see the Dems sitting there with their little paddles that say false. And it's like, are there any grown-ups in the room? Because it really doesn't feel like it.
It's really wild.
It is. I think for me, I'm just focusing on what can I do today? Just what can I do? Because I can't fix everything, and going from there. Because other than that, it's so much. It is overwhelming. So to anybody else that's feeling that way, sorry. I know people are asking you all the time. They ask me all the time, what do we do? It's like, well,
Yeah.
great question. We're
Yeah.
doing what we know to do. That's why we're here. That's why we are showing up tonight.
We're also in a
Well,
state of kind of flux and ambiguity, because the reality is all of these people that I'm openly hostile to, Trump, Musk, pick any of the billionaires, Bezos and everybody running, they have the ability to. So if you were going to take over a country, you shut down communications in airports right off the bat. Once people can't communicate, they can't work together to rebel, to spread new information, to correct misinformation. Once the communications go down and the airports are shut down and other transportation starts getting shut down, people are stuck. And in this world where this little device right here is my brain, shutting down communications in the modern era sets us back almost an immeasurable number of years. Because 100 years ago, Promise and I would have both known how to set up a chicken coop. We'd know people right next to us who were producing eggs, and we cooperate. We'd live somewhere outside, out of town, and we would be taking care of ourselves. Most people don't know anything about any of that stuff. What's sad is the doomsday preppers are going to finally get to show their stuff. They're going to finally get to show off, what they were getting ready for, except that they're on the other side. They're not the ones that people are coming for. It is so strange to me. I mean, I genuinely have this. This is going to sound so weird. I genuinely have sat in this chair when I'm not streaming or doing anything and said, okay, you got me. Joke's up. I know this isn't the really real reality. This is some kind of, there's a camera around here somewhere. You guys are waiting for me to say, yep, there's no way this shit could be real. And nobody interrupts to say, we'll be right back after this commercial message.
There's no Truman Show actors. That's truly how this feels, though. It's like somebody decided to create the most absurd circumstances, and things just keep getting more bizarre every single day. I mean, the AI video that Trump posted about Gaza, I even thought, I saw people posting and I was like, why are people spreading like misinformation? Let me go look and see. Like, there's no way he actually posted this. He actually posted it. It's like the weirdest stuff possible just keeps happening over and over and over and over again. The things he says just keep spewing out of his mouth and getting more and more bizarre. Watching that meeting with Zelensky it's really weird to feel so terrified and yet also just like amused at the same time over and over again, because the stuff is so absurd, but then it's got serious consequences. If this was a television show, we would be like, what kind of screenplay are they writing here? This is absolutely absurd. And yet it's the reality that we are living in. I don't know. I got nothing positive to say about any of it at all.
Yeah, I'm at a loss. Now, as always, we're hoping to take your calls, and we will still always prioritize theist callers. I'm sure we'll end up talking about some politics stuff. I'm running on an hour and a half sleep, so I don't think we're going to go crazy late tonight. But despite the lack of sleep and how awful things are, I feel tired but good. So I'm hoping that we get some good calls that allow us to have some discussions. Maybe somebody, please, somebody, any sincere person, if you are a sincere follower, Christianity or some other major religion that Promise and I don't accept, and you can explain not just why you believe, but why you think we should believe as well, you go straight to the head of the line. You get on the show right away, and you're going to get more airtime. If you're, for example, a Christian, and you think that God has commanded you in the Great Commission to go ye therefore unto all the nations and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that in 1 Peter 3:15, you're given the instruction to be prepared at all times to give a reason for the faith that's within you. If you understand that you, as a Christian, have a duty to be an apologist, to be a conduit to allow the Holy Spirit to move, if you're one of those people, why haven't you called? Where is your call?
And I was arguing with some of them in my comments today, and I feel like some of them are watching. So call in. We'd love to actually have the conversation. I've been accused of being illogical and not knowing about God. So call us and educate us.
Yep. On that note, we'll get rid of our time here jibber jabbering and go on to callers. We've got some atheist callers first while we're waiting on theists to call in and get queued up. But Frank in Illinois, pronouns are him, says, what can we do since the Democrats are mostly just whining about the dangerous things that Trump and Doge are doing? Hey, Frank, how are you?
Doing good. I just wanted to talk to you. I was listening to your speech at the beginning, and I believe 100% what you're saying is in what Promise said. You know, it's getting more bizarre every day. I don't know what to do. I've been going to demonstrations. I'm going to keep going to demonstrations. I've gone to the Democratic building and signed and wrote not letters, but postcards to people to tell who to vote for and why. You know, I've done volunteering and everything, but it seems to me the Democrats can't do anything. And what advice do you have to make an impact that will actually do something? Do you think there is something we can do?
I have to admit, I sit here with no better idea than I see the Democrats not implementing right now. We're in this weird position where we already lost the Supreme Court, we lost the White House, and we've lost Congress. So Democrats that are still in elected positions, their job right now is to be, and I'm going to use a very particular term here, reasonably obstructionist. They should not be being obstructionist over actual good policies. The fact that Trump is in office doesn't mean that everything that Trump or anybody associated with him does or wants to do is actually a bad thing. A lot of it's going to be, and a lot of it's stuff that we're just going to disagree on, and some of it is catastrophic. But we should be reasonably obstructionist on the problem things to the best of our ability. And we should be trying to find chinks in the armor. Should be able to try to find people on the other side of the aisle who will develop the integrity to say, yeah, enough is enough. You know, we have to compromise and make stuff like that. The second thing that needs to happen, I think, is the Democratic Party get new blood. I don't care if you put AOC and Jon Stewart on the next ticket for president, vice president.
That'd be great.
Do something fucking different. I don't ever want to see Biden again. I like Biden. Go enjoy your last couple of years. I don't ever need to see Kamala Harris again. I have nothing against her. I mean, we had issues when she was in California and she did stuff, as, a prosecutor that I had problems with. But she failed. Not her fault. I think she did incredible given everything that happened. But you don't bring her back out again. And I don't need to see Democratic senators and representatives talking about how you don't have to swing at every pitch while they're swinging at none of them. Bernie Sanders is the individual, not even a Democrat, on the left, who seems to be the most vocal, most rational, just like we've been saying for years when he's been running for president. But, and if they put him up, I'll vote for him again, just like every other time it's happened. But it's a mistake to put him up. First of all, he's not a Democrat. The Democratic Party is not going to get behind him. And what needs to happen is if Bernie were to go up as a Democrat, that needs to be the party needs to change to align more with him. Because he's more aligned with AOC and with, any number of other kind of proper left, not just Democrat, not just progressive, not just liberal, but, proper ideas. But Bernie is ancient in much the same way that they're putting up younger folks for judge positions and Supreme Court positions. We need to stand up and block as many of the firings as we can and to file and win, as has already happened, discrimination lawsuits for some of the people who are losing their job, and show that we have some goal. Like, I don't know what the Democrats stand for or what their plan is to achieve it. I know some of the policies, but I'm not interested in their ideals. I'm interested in what they can actually accomplish. If you have I want free healthcare and free lunch and free college for everybody platform, I'm with you. I'm in favor of those things. That does not mean that you can win on that platform, and it does not mean that you can come up with the funding for that platform. I think that is a long-term goal that we should be working towards by saying, here's our short-term goals. Goal number one, make your list, whether it is we're going to focus on the economy, we're actually going to bring the prices of eggs down instead of just pretending like we're going to do it as the price of eggs keep going up. We're going to make sure that we have some way for people to get accurate information and reliably know that it's decent information, that while it may not be perfect, it's at least not a lie. When Trump goes out and says that Zelensky started this, when Putin broke 20 to 25 peace deals, I mean, that's an obvious pattern. I do not understand how these people can get up and fucking blatantly lie to everyone. And the few people who seek to correct that information just get ignored. And that's why I am in this frustrated position of you're asking me, what should we be doing? And I don't know. I've done almost everything that I know to do, other than encouraging people to vote. But as long as you've got people who are so misinformed and ill-informed and who think that both sides are the same, or who think both sides are just as corrupt, so there's no point in voting for either of them, or that their vote doesn't matter and that George Soros and, Elon Musk are going to pick the president, that world can happen, but you got to fight against it. I don't know. I just went on for a long tear there. Maybe Promise has better ideas than I do. If so, we should vote for Promise.
And I got nothing. Definitely don't vote for me. Like I said earlier, I think what I am doing is just focusing on what I can do. And until I hear somebody come up with this amazing plan for us to all get in on together, that's all I know to do, is to focus on what I'm good at, which, that's why I'm here showing up on the show. That's why I'm doing my own activism and have different projects going that will further what I'm passionate about, which is getting people to question their dogma and specifically evangelical Christianity. That's the most help I personally have to offer, because I do think that's a huge component. I think that's clearly what's a common factor here, is that all these evangelicals that Trump has found as his base. And we see a shift when people start questioning that. We see them start questioning the other values in their life, which reflects on their political leanings as well. So, for me, it's finding what I can do and focusing on that more than ever. It's also noticing when my friends have figured out different things that are working and showing up for them. I think that's a big part. I'm really trying to work on building community more. I know that sounds really cliche, but I think we're going to need it more than ever. Even as far as connecting with neighbors, they run out of eggs. Here's an egg for, the kind of stuff that I grew up better at, and now I'm trying to get back to that. So for me, I'm having to just really look at these little tiny things I can focus on, because I don't know other than that. I wish I had some amazing answers, but I don't.
Yeah, I feel the same way both of you do, and I just wanted to tell you, I've watched your show, Chew Gum, a lot, all the time actually, and
thanks so much.
Listening to you talk on the phone, you sound exactly like my sister, and it doesn't sound like that on TV, on YouTube. But that's a huge compliment. She passed on a few years ago, and I miss her terribly.
Oh.
And she's one of two family members besides me that makes three that think along this course. Everybody else is staunch MAGA, and I can't deal with them. I can't talk to them. I can't go to holiday. And that's the. And one thing I want to talk about, or just briefly talk about what Matt said, is that we do have to reach across. And when I say reach across, I'm not talking about the diehard MAGAs. I'm talking about the MAGAs that have found out, oh my God, I didn't expect it was going to happen to me, and then it happened to them, like the farmers, like some of the vets. And things like that. We need, when I read YouTube comments say, I don't feel sorry for the son of a gun because they voted for him. We need to get those people on our side. We need to say, in a certain way, say, we forgive you. Come join us. We warned you. You didn't catch on, but you need to start paying attention now. So, I mean,
I agree. As somebody who used to be an evangelical conservative Christian, I fully agree. I think there are people that haven't been informed. They don't know necessarily. They've had poor judgment. They've perhaps been indoctrinated into where they're at. And I don't know if you heard about that woman that she was one of the January 6ers, and she rejected her pardon because she has now taken responsibility for her role and what she did. It's a really cool story to go look up, but there are going to be people like that. And I don't understand why we wouldn't be excited when that happens. That's a good thing for humankind when somebody learns better, does better, and tries to make up for it. That is a good thing overall. I don't want to be like an evangelical Christian and condemn people to an eternal judgment because of poor decisions they made in the past. So I love that. And thanks for telling me that about your sister. That really means a lot that you would share that.
Well, I've called in several times. I think I called into your show once, and I've called into the line several times. And I've also put in super chats, and I go by the name of Homespun Covers. So just want to let you know we are the same, Homespun Covers and Frank. And I appreciate you guys taking my call. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I just wanted to say I appreciate you guys for all that you do, and keep doing it because this country is in dire straits.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Frank, for your support.
Thanks, Frank.
You bet.
Much appreciated. I we've got theist call, and I'm going to get to a theist call here. Wow. Like one of the theist callers, I'm already
Oh, I see that now too.
completely convinced they're full of it. But we're going to take a different theist caller first, because Jim's calling from the UK. Jim's a theist and says that disbelief in God leads to nihilism. Hey, Jim, nihilism is kind of a complex label that gets kind of tossed around and means different things to different people. So like I have friends that call themselves nihilists, but they don't reject knowledge or morality or meaning. They just have a different take on those things. If disbelief in God leads to nihilism, so what? What is it leading to that's bad? And if I only care about whether or not it's true, like I'm not going to believe, I can't believe something just because I think it stops people from being nihilistic.
No, and that's admirable. Hi, by the way.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yep, great.
Yeah. So, I just think that there seems to be a lot of posturing from atheists, and I would loosely call myself a non-atheist, a theist, more so a deist. Who knows? All I think is that the more we try to intellectualize this stuff, the more we try and know, the less we do. Seeing people that
I don't think that's true.
And so, yeah, well,
I mean,
we'll see.
do you think
life is not worth living and all this stuff? Yeah, whatever. I just think that I think that you and many atheists subscribe to this notion of human exceptionalism amongst the various species, and I think it's flawed. I think it's wrong.
Instead of telling Jim, stop fucking talking. Instead of telling me what you wow. Jim ran away.
Already?
Okay. That's one way to stop fucking talking.
Okay.
Okay. Here's a pro tip. There's going to be a delay. It's going to be inevitable that we interrupt each other. But I'm trying to figure out why. Let's assume for a second the disbelief of a God led to nihilism. That wouldn't change anything for me because I only care about whether or not the belief is true. If it turns out that nihilism is true or the most rational position, then so be it. If it turns out that disbelief doesn't necessarily need to lead to the problematic things, so be it. But when you are suggesting that from your point of view, I hold some sort of human exceptionalism position, don't do that. Promise and I are literally sitting right here. Instead of you telling us what you think we believe, which, by the way, I don't hold some view of human exceptionalism, you could have had a discussion with us about what we believe and why. You never need to say, well, I think you think this. No, you could just say, do you think this? And I can say, yes, no, it's complicated, whatever. But maybe that caller will call back. Maybe it was a weird little web drop. Maybe it wasn't somebody running off just because I happened to drop an F-bomb, but I don't know. I want people to call in and defend God beliefs because they're true, not because they find them useful. But at a minimum, if you think that a God belief is useful, I'd like to find out what you think you're avoiding.
Right. And I don't know if I heard correctly, which is why I was wanting to continue having the talk. And I guess we'll see if he calls back. But I thought I heard him say something about how nihilism is being like, well, life isn't even worth living, or like falling into these, how atheists fall into these tendencies. And I'd love to hear what that's about as well, because to me, it just sounds like this person has been sitting in an echo chamber making up these stories about atheists when we can't. I mean, you and I aren't going to agree on so many things because the only thing we're going to agree on as atheists is that we're both identifying as somebody that doesn't believe God exists. So I don't know. It could have been an interesting call had we have been able to have a discussion instead of that person tell us about the discussions they've had with themselves.
Well, maybe they'll call back. Maybe it's just a little tech thing. Maybe it wasn't what it seemed. Nice. And I don't want to fault someone for something that may have not been what it seemed. We have Vio, or is it Vio or Vio, calling from Arizona? Pronouns are he, him. He's a theist who says Donald Trump is the most amazing president we've ever had. Hey, Vio, yes, is it Vio or Vio? Vio. Cool. Is amazing a good thing in your view or a bad thing? Because amazing, I mean, I've seen amazing things that are bad.
Wait, I'm sorry, I kind of didn't hear you 100%. So can you ask the question again?
Yeah, you said Donald Trump is the most amazing president. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I can think of things that I would call amazing that are bad things.
Well, that was confusing. You want
okay.
to explain that?
Do you think
there are bad things that can happen in reality that might amaze me. An explosion is amazing, but that doesn't mean that I think it's a good thing. So when you say Trump is the most amazing president ever, you could be amazed that the most dishonest, most convicted felon, biggest liar actually managed to win a second time, something that's only happened once in the past. That might be the thing that's amazing, in which case I would agree with you.
I think it's amazing that the greatest president ever had to take 4 years off and realize the garbage that he's dealing with from the federal government. And now he's coming back and he's actually better than he was the first time. I think that's amazing.
Cool. How's he better? What's he done that's good?
He's destroyed.
Also, can we have you speak up a little bit? Because everyone's saying it's really hard to understand you. So maybe it sounds a little bit fuzzy or
yeah, you sound
unclear.
A little muffled.
That's the word.
Is this better?
No.
Not really.
No. Well, I'm sorry. This is the only phone I got, So, like, if you can't hear me, I don't know what to tell you. But
so what has Trump done? What has Trump done that's good this time since he's taken office? What's the best thing he's done?
I'll tell you. He's going into Doge. He's helped Elon Musk, given Elon Musk like amazing authority to like go in. And
why is that a good thing? Why is it a good thing to take an unelected richest person on earth and give them power without congressional approval to kill off foreign aid and people's jobs so that they have to undo the very things that Elon's doing? Why is that a good thing?
Because I don't know why the government is spending money, my money, because I pay taxes. I don't know why the government is spending taxes on giving transgender garbage to like the rest of the world.
Okay, so I'm going to mute you, Vio, because congratulations, you got to say what you wanted to say, which I predicted long before we ever took this call that you would be a transphobic piece of shit, which you are. And so when I ask you what's the best thing Trump did, you are, probably, I'm going to bet you watch a lot of Joe Rogan, but you decided that the best thing that Trump has done is to give power to Elon Musk, the unelected richest person in the world, who has made a number of mistakes that he has had to fix and who has lied about a number of things. And when I ask you why that's good, you say it's good because the government is really sticking it to the trans garbage. Vio, I hate to say this, you are the garbage here. You are the person who has such an ignorant, ill-informed, misinformed hatred of a group of people that you are willing to sacrifice the integrity of the country and the presidency and risk war so that you can wipe your chin after filleting Elon Musk and claim that everything is good because we really stuck it to that trans garbage. I'm sorry that your brain is broken, that you are immoral, that you are not able to empathize with other people, that you are not able to follow the science, that you have no understanding of the government or finances or what is good at all. You are sitting there in your bitter little world, hating trans people so bad that you will sacrifice everything. And I'm not even going to do the normal little, I'll bet you we should check your search history crap. Because honestly, I'd rather believe that instead of you actually being the piece of shit you seem to be, that you are instead a different piece of shit. You're someone who calls into shows to specifically try to rile them up and slag off groups to get, clicks or views or attention or something else. I'm sorry that not enough people have loved you. I don't love you. And I'm not going to give you a hug. And I'm not going to sleep with you. And I'm not going to let you speak ever again on this show. I've already jotted down your number, and your phone number is going to be banned forever on this show, because I'm happy for you to say, I really have a problem with trans folks and what we're spending money on, and I think that should change. That is a reasonable point to try to discuss, because you could be right, you could be wrong, but you are not being hateful towards anyone. But you, Vio, are too immoral, unethical, and unintelligent to be able to have that sort of conversation. And so you just come in half laughing so you can dance around in front of these libs and mock the trans folks. I would ask you what you get out of it, but I don't care. So goodbye.
I think Jimmy even banned him before, it sounds familiar. Sounds to me like the person that's been banned. So that's also wild, trying to continue to call back and do that. When you've already been told that's not something we're having over here.
Well, that's good. We banned. Now we actually get to go on to a call that might actually be useful and productive. So Larry's calling from Canada. Larry's a theist, pronouns are he, him, who wants to talk about the God he knows. Hey, Larry, how are you? You're on with Promise and Matt.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good.
Hello? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just heard your talk before, and as a Canadian, this is just, I like to thank Americans. We love Americans, and I'm glad to hear that a lot of people are seeing that maybe your president has a lot of things to fix. And but we love you, and I'm sorry he declared war on Canada, and other democratic countries. But anyway, I just thank you for what I heard. Thanks, there.
Larry.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
thanks,
that's good.
There's a lot of us that are embarrassed, and we are not being represented right now at all. I understand that the rest of the world is going to struggle to understand how divided it is, but this is not representing of us at all.
Yeah,
on that note,
that's good. That's good.
On that note, Larry, well, I'm sure I'd love for us all to be kind of kumbaya and sharing everything else. It says you wanted to talk about the God you know, and I'm assuming that by the God you know, you mean it in the sense of like, I'm familiar with, like, I know promise, not I know that promise exists. So you're talking like in a relational sense?
Oh, yeah, definitely. A relation.
Cool. How does that work? Like, does God speak to you audibly or not?
Well, let me ask you a question. I don't mean to give this like to insult you or I'm trying to make somebody look or belittle anybody, but I know God personally, and you say you don't. So how does that prove that he doesn't exist?
It doesn't, Larry, and I've never claimed it does. Why did you avoid my question? It's not up to any of us to prove that God doesn't exist. It's up to the people who say he does exist to prove that he exists. And so when I asked you, you said you know that God exists. And I said, how does that work? Does God speak to you or something, giving you the opportunity to explain to me how you're in a relationship with God? I'm not in a relationship with God. I'm not at all saying that means that God doesn't exist. but I have seen no good evidence that a God exists, and you seem to think that you have. So I'm wondering, what's the evidence that God exists, and how does he interact with you?
Well, for years, I never even thought about God or cared if he exists, tell you the truth. But some things happened in my life that I don't need to really go into to explain. But
Okay,
what happened was
Larry, I'm going to stop talking, because while you're a nice guy, you're going to irritate the fuck out of me really quickly here. And I know that Promise would be better at this, because what I'm trying to figure out is, you say you know that God exists. Promise and I do not know that. I would like to know how you know and how you think we can know. I don't need to hear about how for years you never thought about God. That's not relevant to how you know, and it's definitely not relevant to how we know. So I'm looking for people who can actually say, here's why I know that God exists, and here's how you can also know that God exists. Is that something you can do? Because you're not doing it so far.
Well, I haven't really started, and I can see that you're getting quite angry or upset. So
I'm actually not angry. I'm explaining to you that I have asked you several questions, and you have, like every theist almost on the planet, avoided answering those questions, and instead immediately directed a question to me that betrayed that you don't understand what atheism is, you don't understand what the burden of proof is, you don't understand what my position is. And none of that is relevant to whether or not you can demonstrate a good reason to believe that God exists. So that's the frustrating part, is that I'm sitting here, Larry,
I didn't say that.
Larry, let me finish. I'm sitting here hosting a show, trying to have good discussions with people about their God belief and whether or not we should share it. And you're refusing to answer questions. Yes, of course, that irritates me.
Well, like you just said to me, if you give me time to answer, I could probably answer.
Larry, I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to ask you one last time. And you can take as much time as Promise feels that you should get, because I am sick to death of theists saying, well, if you'd give me time, when I've literally asked them a question and given them an opportunity to answer multiple times, and they fucking avoid the question. So the question is, how would you demonstrate that we should also be able to know that God exists? That's my question. I'll play chess.
Well, it might start with, if you didn't get so upset so quickly.
Larry,
Fuck
why?
yourself,
We're
Larry.
actually
I'm
trying
done.
to have an honest conversation with you.
No, you're not. I haven't got to say anything.
Larry, I haven't.
Look, you
You're a
just
liar.
cut me off again. You just cut me off again.
I'm going to cut you off because I'm going to step in, or Matt's done talking to you and we can let you off the line. Do you want to talk to me now, or do you want us to let you go? Because I can ask some specific questions if you'd like.
Well, to make this fair, I think we should just close it off, because it
You
is
don't want to
You
answer?
fucking coward! You lying coward!
I have real questions for you, Larry.
Call me what you want. If whatever makes you feel good. And you sat there and cut out people that believe in somebody else? Come on, you people are sad. What?
Do you want to try to answer some of my...
You're the sad one, Larry. You're the sad one. You won't answer a single fucking question, and then you whine like a little baby about how somebody else asked you a question but didn't give you time to answer, when that's a lie. And they did, in fact, give you time to answer. You just didn't do it.
I haven't muted. Larry, I have questions. If you want to try this one last time, otherwise I'm going to feel pretty similar to Matt and just let you go. I think the problem here is you're probably used to sharing your testimony. I don't want a testimony. I want direct answers to actual questions that we have here. So my first question for you was going to be, which God is it that you're talking about specifically? Is this the Christian God?
Am I talking, or?
Yeah. Is it the Christian? Is it the Christian God that you believe in?
I believe in God and His Son, Jesus Christ.
Okay, so would you say that probably the Bible, the Christian God? This is not a gotcha question. I'm just trying to understand who I'm talking to. Are you a Christian?
Yes.
Okay, got you. Okay, so you believe that you have relationship with this God. I have had people tell me that they have relationships with all kinds of other gods, or even with a dead celebrity and all of that. So what we're asking you is, how would you show us that you actually have relationship with this specific God and not anything else, and that it's not just something in your head or that you're not making it up? How would you convince Matt and I that what you're saying is true and that you actually are in relationship with this specific God?
Okay, over phone, I obviously can't show you or anything like that. All I can tell you is that the Bible's not God. A church building with 4 walls is not God.
I got to stop you, Larry, because I don't want to know. I don't want to know what's not God. I'm asking you, how do you know that you are in relationship with this specific God, and how can you show that to Matt and I? How can you demonstrate that?
Well,
why are you so convinced that you're not worried, that you're talking to yourself, that you're not worried that this is maybe an hallucination, that you're not just lying? Like, where's the reality in this situation?
Well, why would I make something up to myself? I might as well look in the mirror and tell myself I'm beautiful, or be a Trump and say I'm the greatest Trump president there is. I could
and
do
people
that,
do that all the time. People lie to themselves. That's actually a great example. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
so I'm asking you, how can you show us that you are in relationship with an entire God, and that it's not just something that exists only in your head?
Because if it only existed in my head, I'd either need psychiatry help, or I would need somebody to continually tell me that God's real, or else, because I wouldn't be having a relationship. I have a relationship with him. I know what he says. I know he loves me, and I know he cares for me. And really, it's just like, huh?
How do you know?
Say that again?
How do you know
because
that?
I talk to him. I talk to him just like I'm talking to you.
And how do you know that it's not the devil convincing you otherwise?
Because the devil only has one direction, and that's always negative.
How do you know that?
God always, huh?
So
Hello?
God is so because you're hearing positive things in your head, you've decided that that's a God.
Oh yeah, because I know what negative things are. It's happened to me. But now that I have this relationship with God and I know him, there isn't anything that I could die right now and it wouldn't even bother me a bit. I'm not worried about.
Same here, Larry. Same here.
Huh?
So same here. But let me tell you something.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm not saying.
I also used to be a Christian for many years, and I deeply believed that I had relationship with God. I believed the same thing. I thought that I was communicating with God. I thought God was speaking to me in my head. And I would have said very similar things to what you're saying right now. I realized that I had no reason to believe any gods exist at all, much less this specific God. And do you know how I explained away that relationship that I thought I had for all those years and years and years? I realized it was my own voice in my head, and I realized that all these things happening throughout my life were either things I accomplished on my own, that if no God existed, the exact same outcome would have occurred, and that I was assigning and crediting different things in my life happening to this God when I didn't need to do that. Are you 100% sure that that is not what's going on with you?
Oh, definitely.
How do you know? So what's the difference between what I experienced and what you're experiencing now? And how can you show that to Matt and I?
Well, an example, just the fact that I was, I have wonderful sleeps. And when I wake up, I know answers to things that I was asking the day before every time, because I didn't know this before until I actually read that Jesus guarantees that if you ask him anything, he'll give it to you, and he does. I've gone through
anything. So we could ask you any question right now, and you would be able to give us the answer because you could ask Jesus.
No, it doesn't work that way. It's
Oh, wait, but you just
like,
said, you literally just said that Jesus says you can ask him anything and he'll give you that information. How does it work then? Why are you saying one thing and then flip-flopping on it?
I'm not flip-flopping. It's just like you and I
Can
are
you answer
talking.
my question?
There's a lot
Can
of
you,
things
can you,
I wouldn't ask
Larry,
you.
Larry,
Yes.
can you answer my question? You just told me
No.
I just did. I'm trying to answer it, and you won't let me. I'm telling
Liar.
you that I can ask it. Well, that's fine. You want to call me that. You're not hurting my feelings. If it makes you feel good, great. I feel great. You feel good. You like
It
to call
makes me
people
feel
liars.
good to
That's
tell the
wonderful.
truth. It makes me feel good to tell the truth, and you're a fucking
I
liar.
thought you were going to
And that's
mute
the truth.
yourself. I asked you to
I
shut
don't
up.
have to
which
do.
is like,
Okay, you little shit. I get to talk on
oh,
my fucking
really?
show
Well, now the
whenever.
real person comes.
Here we go. You're getting the real person right now, Larry. I get to talk on my fucking show whenever the fuck I want. I will talk over a co-host, although I'd rather not. I will talk over a producer, although I'd rather not. But I will definitely talk over to a fucking delusional liar like you, who repeatedly gets asked to demonstrate the truth of what he called in to defend, who completely, utterly fails and spews forth the most delusional, confused, illogical sentences I've ever heard. Ever. And who lies by saying that the Bible says Jesus will answer anything. It doesn't say that. Chapter and verse. Find the chapter and verse that says Jesus will tell you whatever. That's not in the fucking Bible. But you don't know what's in the Bible because you don't know anything about any of this. And because you think it's in the Bible, you think that Jesus will answer your questions. But when Promise correctly says, okay, then we should be able to ask you anything, and you can ask Jesus and Jesus will tell you, all of a sudden, shit don't work that way. But then you betrayed yourself. You betrayed yourself, Larry, because you pointed out there are things I wouldn't ask you. So you're trying to respin, not to say, hey, Jesus won't answer that, but to say, I wouldn't be so rude as to ask Jesus that, because you're a delusional coward who knows you're full of shit. Welcome to the show.
Am I still here?
You're
Hello?
still
Were
here.
you even listening?
Can I talk or can I?
Were you
have
listening to
fun with-
anything that Matt just said? And do you have anything
I
productive to say, or are you just going to go back and forth and not offer us any information?
Are you going to talk for me and tell me what I'm thinking and what I want to say? Have I got
Here, Larry, I'm going to mute you again. Let me explain to you, Larry, how conversations work. You say something, the person you're having a conversation with asks a clarifying question. You answer that clarifying question, and it proceeds that way. But that's not what you're doing. We're asking you a question. You're rambling on about something that doesn't answer the question. And when we point that out, you come on and lie and say that we're not allowing you the opportunity to answer it. We have allowed you the opportunity to answer many questions over and over and over again. All you do is whine and show that you are the worst defender of Christianity I've ever come across. You can't present any evidence. You can't present any argument. You don't know what the Bible says. You have no way of demonstrating this, but you're convinced that because you hear good things in your mind, that must be God. Well, that is, in fact, fallacious reasoning that does not demonstrate your case, something that you also don't understand. But at the end of the day, I'm going to unmute you here in just a second, and you'll hear a little beep, and then you'll be back on. And then you don't have to say, am I allowed to talk now? Because that's just whiny little bitch stuff. Instead, you should answer the questions that have been asked. And you can start with the most obvious one, which is, what can I do to know that there's a God in the way that you know that there's a God? I'm unmuting you now so that you can answer the question without whining.
Hello. Okay. If you want to know God like I do, then seek him. That's all. That's all you can do. I can't.
What do you think I did for 26 years of my life? What do you think I did when I was in church almost every single day, when I went to ministry school, when I was a worship leader, when I gave every single part of my life to this belief? What do you think I was doing, Larry? How do you think I became an atheist? I will go out and give you the answer. I was seeking God.
Oh, am I cut off again?
Nope.
I'm still here. I
You're
keep
here.
hearing beep.
Yep,
Am
that
I
means
here?
that you're on, that means you can answer. When you hear a beep, it means it's your turn to talk.
Okay. The reason why I phoned was I wanted your answer just because if I know God and I know him and I talk to him and you don't, I don't understand why you say that means he can't exist.
I didn't say that, Larry.
Okay,
I'm
well,
asking
tell
you
me what
why we've this whole entire call has been us asking you how you know that God exists.
And I
Nothing
told
to
you.
do with any claims. You still haven't actually told us. You've told us why you've convinced yourself about this, but you haven't offered us a good reason
No,
for us
I
to
didn't
believe
convince
you. That
myself.
I'm still in the
I'd be
middle of
an
the
idiot to
sentence.
try to think
I'm
I can convince myself
I'm-
there's a God.
I'm still in the middle of talking, Larry. So the whole time we've just been trying to understand from you why, if you're just going to laugh at me when I've been the one patient enough to take the time to talk to you, even though Matt is correct that we should have ended the call a while ago because you're being so blatantly dishonest, then I'm going to be done with you too. You're being rude to me for no reason. I'm the one that's let you talk the most.
Well, I think if you just go back and look at the time I've talked and the time you guys have talked,
I don't
I
care
think
if
you'll
you've talked
see
for
I
30
haven't said
seconds
much
and I've
of
talked for
anything. I
Larry,
haven't said
everything I did.
anything.
Correct. And if
I'm
we took
muting her.
everything you've said, Larry, the number of things you've said that have been of any value to anyone on the planet is zero.
That's okay. That's how you feel.
It's
I
not
can't make
okay.
you feel
It's not
different.
okay, Larry. Your job,
Oh, I
Larry,
can't
is to
change your
call in and
mind.
defend. Your job, Larry, is to call in and defend your God belief. For the final time, I'm going to unmute you.
Done anything.
Are
You
you
haven't done anything.
able? Okay. Evidently, you're just going to talk the whole time you're on fucking mute. So I'm going to try this again. I'm going to unmute you, Larry, and for the final time, I'm going to ask you to answer one question. And based on how you answer that question determines how many more words you get to waste my time with. Are you ready for the question?
Go ahead.
Do you have the ability to demonstrate to me that God exists? Yes or no?
No.
Goodbye.
At least we got an answer that time.
Yep.
Wow.
Larry also, by the way, made an absolutely... So Larry is a very confused, irrational individual who does not understand logical thought or fallacies. This is not me slagging him off. This is a fact. When he said, how could he know that God was real? His answer was, because if I didn't, I would need a psychiatrist. Well, Larry, you may well need a psychiatrist. How do you know that you don't need a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist or a counselor? How do you know that you don't? If you say, well, there must be a God, otherwise I'm crazy. Ha ha! How did you rule out the crazy? How did you rule out the irrational?
Yep.
The truth is, you didn't. It's a fallacy. It's an argumentum ad baculum. It's an appeal to the stick. It is an argument that if I'm not right about God, then I am delusional, and that's a bad thing. Therefore, I must be right about God. That's like saying, if I don't have $1 million in my bank account, I'm fucking broke, which means I must have $1 million in my bank account. The point, Larry, is that all we wanted to know was you're completely convinced that a God exists and that you communicate with that God. Something I asked about at the beginning of the call. Do you hear God's voice? A question that you did not answer and instead tried to ask me a question about some irrelevant, confused thing about how does my disbelief disprove God? You are not ready for the prime time, Larry. You are not equipped to have these conversations. You are not equipped to be honest in these conversations because at the end, when I said, can you demonstrate God? And you said, no, that was, you know how quickly and pleasantly this call would have been over and done with if you'd have just done that at the beginning? If you'd have said, yes, I hear an audible voice from God. No, I won't ask him any questions on your behalf. And no, I won't do anything to demonstrate it. We would have said, okay, there's nothing we can address there. This show exists so that we can have a discussion and you can demonstrate that what you believe is real. But you can't do that by your own admission. And yet you called in to say, I want to talk about this God that I know is real. Okay, how do you know? Oh, I just know because otherwise I'm crazy. Okay, how can we know? Oh, you can seek him. I took off my earbuds and my eyeglasses and threw them down and said I quit and walked off to go pee. When your answer, after a long call, was to say that, oh, yes, you can find God. All you got to do is seek him. Hey, you can learn about evolution too if you just go read. Hey, you can learn about logical fallacies too if you just go learn about it. Or we could actually explain how your logical argument is flawed. That if God doesn't exist, either God exists or I'm crazy. I'm not crazy, therefore God exists. I don't know how you ruled that out. Because the other option isn't crazy. It is irrational. And yet you demonstrated multiple times that you are in fact very irrational during that call. Your reasons for believing, your thoughts about how we could demonstrate it, all of those are irrational. Every potential argument you tried to make, even with the most charitable listing, was fallacious. And the constant whining about how you're not getting to answer. When we literally thanked you, asked you a question, and the first fucking words out of your mouth in response to the question was to say, let me ask you a question. How does this prove that God doesn't exist? Larry, I just wanted to talk to you about God. And you just wanted to whine and feel oppressed and be cocksure and smug and in your confusion and assert that, oh, all we got to do is seek him. All right. You want to try again?
Let's do it.
With somebody else?
Yeah, I'm already concerned with what it says here, but yeah.
Mark's a theist con from New Jersey would like to describe why his belief in God is reinforced by personal experience with passing of loved ones. Hey, Mark.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Mr. Matt. Hi, Miss Promise. Mrs. Promise.
Hey there.
To jump right in, no background story, Roman Catholic, Northern New Jersey. Had an experience with my father and grandmother, learning my fallacies, so not appeal to pity. Thank you for the compliment. And I saw some stories and read some and not super well read in the Bible. Started to pull me back as my mother sat beside me on both of those pathways and saw them pull at their clothes, heard a bunch of stories about it, read only a little bit about it, and it's starting to pull me back into that faith. And
I'm sorry, I missed something.
Like
Did you say pulling up their clothes?
Yeah, pulling at their clothes, and if they want to leave, I was told some stories.
Okay.
I'm not as
I'm
educated.
sorry, Mark.
And yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Mark. I thought you said pulling up their clothes, and I thought I missed a part of the story where people were naked, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Okay.
No, I apologize.
So you've had conversations. You've had conversations with family members, and they're uncomfortable having the discussions.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
I'm caught up. Keep going.
The end. Yes, and at the end of these two wonderful individuals' lives, stories were told to me next to me in these uncomfortable moments with the living, telling me how, sorry, that's long, and telling me how they want to stay if they are not passing and not pulling at their clothes, and then they want to go if they're pulling at their clothes, and that then happened in an experience with me, in front of me, within a year, with both separate parents, one, well, not parents, one parent, one grandmother, and watching that happen, and now making me feel a little like that's possibly true. And I would like to be questioned about that, and I'm sorry if I'm saying anything in an inappropriate way or misunderstanding.
I have no idea what you're actually talking about.
Yeah, I think I'm
Promise?
confused. Are you saying you had an experience where you felt someone tugging at your clothes, or like, I'm just
No, ma'am.
really confused.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, a little nervous. I apologize to both.
No, it's okay. We'll ask questions to understand.
Yes, when watching both pass at their last moments, they were both pulling at their clothes, one more than another, one going quicker than the other, and family members telling me that's them trying to go to God, and then reading scriptures and telling me things in the Catholic Church on this is how it goes, and one happened and the other happened the way they described it, somewhat read it to me, which then I don't have an appropriate word, and I apologize. Freaked me out a little bit.
I'm understanding now more what you're saying. My first question to you would be, if you knew for a 100% fact that there was no God, then what would you say the explanation for this happening was?
I can make up an explanation of oxygen deprivation, something not metaphysical, I'm very sorry, physical. I've never seen that act before, so I haven't seen that specific act happen in the living, but I'm also know that I'm not a biologist, so there might be some other reasons for sure. There could be other reasons, yes. Sorry if I'm answering incorrectly.
I mean,
to what
for
you're
me,
asking.
I would just automatically also think maybe it's discomfort, confusion, some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? You know, when you're like a sensory thing, you're feeling stuff on you when you're, who knows what all is the brain is going through when it's starting to approach death. So to me, it would be the biggest leap ever to get from that to therefore there's a God and it's this specific God. It makes perfect sense to me that your family members who are adhering to this dogma decided that that must mean something that goes along with their beliefs. So of course they are telling you that what else are they going to say? It's just an odd thing to point to be evidence for really anything.
It reminds me of standing in church. Now, I was a Southern Baptist primarily, but I also went to Pentecostal churches on rare occasions. But it reminds me of standing in church and everybody's singing and praising. And you feel a sense of elation, and you might get goosebumps and get emotional. And the people around me would describe that experience as being filled with the Holy Spirit. And as a kid, and I suppose as it would have been the same as an adult if I didn't have the tools, having all the adults around you saying, we have more experience with this religious stuff than you do, and this is what's known as being filled with the Holy Spirit, and this is when, and then they go on and describe it. It's the best explanation I have for what I felt and what other people felt at that time. But it doesn't in any way demonstrate that their claim about the Holy Spirit is true. And once you realize that all they're doing is saying, this experience that feels weird, that's God, and absolutely nothing else. They're not presenting evidence that the experience is from God. And in this case that you're talking about, I think it's worse, because here's someone who is dying, whose brain is not operating and functioning normally, and who may be desperate to go and meet the God that they believe in and doing things actively to go to God. They want to be there. And all of that can be true, even if there's no God. So why does family members telling you about the Holy Spirit, telling you that they're trying to reach God when they're dying, why does that make it true or even reasonable?
I appreciate the story, and I kind of needed to hear that. I hope you're both okay with that. I don't just looking for a different piece of the answer there. I'm sorry, not the answer. You're correct. I do think that just feel something that maybe I was open to and trying to bounce back to something logical, and I kind of just needed to hear that. And I'm not defending or anything. I apologize. It just
no, you're fine.
Towards something, and I was looking for something else to be. I needed something else to balance out what the possibilities were through others. That's all.
I understand. And when we're grieving, that's what we want to do is to latch on to familiar, comforting things. And we want answers and all of that. And so that makes sense. But I appreciate you wanting to bring some reality into the situation when it might be easier not to. But I just went and looked up some resources from different hospice care sites, and they're all talking about this thing called terminal restlessness, terminal restlessness. And pulling at clothes is really, really common for people who are in the late stages of life. And it's often due to infection, uncontrolled pain, dehydration. So go read about it. I think if that's going to help you too, like maybe just go learn more about it, and that might help you. Also, you might have to settle with well, that was interesting, and I don't know why that happened, you know?
I have one last thought on this.
I will read it. Yeah. Yes,
I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
No. Continue, please.
So here's the one thing that I constantly try and encourage people to do. Not just ask yourself the kind of questions from a skeptical standpoint that Promise and I were talking about. Like, if you knew for certain I think Promise's questions, there's a number of things Promise has said in the last 36 hours or so that I think are just fucking brilliant. One of them I need to tell you about later, but
nice.
Not you, Mark, but Promise. But the engaging in the skepticism of saying, hey, if you knew for sure there wasn't a God, what explanations would you come up with, is one way to kind of to skew you that way. But the other thing is this: let's assume you're right. Let's assume that the clutching at the clothing, while it in a rational sense shouldn't be sufficient to confirm a God, is in fact happening because a God exists. If in fact that were happening because a God exists, what else would need to be true? And why wouldn't God be more comforting of these people in their final moments and more open and engaging with the people standing around who are confused about those final moments? Why does it need to be a mystery that you kind of got to feel, and get a little, maybe it's like that? What kind of God that supposedly loves us operates in a way where if you tilt your head and you squint and you pay really close attention, you could kind of see something that maybe might be tied to a God? Don't just, if you knew for sure that there's no God, how would you explain it? If in fact there was a God, is this what we would see? Is this how God would interact with people, with dubious, oh, we don't want to tell it. We don't want to prove too much that God exists. So what we'll do is, for people who are dying, we'll let them kind of flounder around with their clothes, because that'll give people just enough to tie that to God without making it obvious. We don't want to be obvious. Asking yourself those kind of questions is, does this make sense? Because the God of the Bible and the God that various people advocate for makes zero sense to me, given the facts of the world.
Can I ask may I say one last statement, possibly?
Sure.
The mental gymnastics of this, and I do feel honestly a little bit defective that I can't get to something that sounds so logically quicker, and as two skeptics and very good talkers and really good questioners, and I'm really glad I called, and I really appreciate your time. Does it take time to be skeptical about experience based on all of our own indoctrination? Because it's taking me some time to get to hear skepticism or your good questions better. And is that something that is just mental gymnastics in your opinion or in your own experiences, or does it take time? Is it a learned behavior? I kind of see that, but when those situations happen and the indoctrination along with some other things said in these specific times and being very emotional, you almost kind of need to hear that. I understand the question, and I clearly understand, and I think I answered promises honestly. But is there a time frame for both of you that takes you to be more skeptical quicker? And I think that's my question, and I'm sorry if I didn't pose it as well. I apologize for that.
You're doing great.
It can take time. Learning to reason quickly and efficiently is a skill that you hone. But if you go back to like the first episodes that I ever did of that other show, I wasn't as good at some things then as I am now. And it would be very sad if I hadn't gotten better at some things over the last 20 years. There are other things that I'm probably not as good at that don't have as much to do with the specifics or the rational part, but have more to do with the empathy and compassion part, because after 20 years of having people just repeatedly lie and refuse to have anything like an honest conversation is incredibly exhausting. However, yes, you can train. Yes, you can get better. Cut yourself some slack. Give yourself a break. You're asking the right questions. You're considering the right things. And you may or may not develop a real solid skeptical line of thought. But if you don't, it's important for people to understand and apply skepticism everywhere in their life. But not being the best skeptic doesn't mean that you've failed everything, because at the end of the day, there's real important shit. There's important stuff in my life that has nothing to do with whether or not there's a God, or whether or not there's an absolute foundation for morality, or whether or not this fallacy or that fallacy might have been used for something. There's real stuff I got to deal with. And so nobody's expected to be an expert on everything. And so Promise and I not only found our way out of religions, we did it with the help of a bunch of people who came before us who said all the shit that we're saying now, or most of it. And
my help was you, so.
Although the thing that Promise said the other day was great about teaching kids, because people are making the excuse that God couldn't outlaw slavery because the people back then just were too primitive to understand this outlawing of slavery. So he allowed it to exist for a little while. And her point was, if you're teaching little kids and they don't understand why they shouldn't hit each other, you don't just tell them, go ahead, hit each other. We'll teach you later why it's wrong. That's an absolutely brilliant assessment in response to the criticism of, it's an excuse. People are like, oh, God couldn't have told him slavery was wrong. And my response had always been, he can tell them not to eat shellfish and not to wear mixed fabrics, but he can't tell them not to own people as property. Are you fucking kidding me? And instead, I will be using Promise's example about,
Wow,
even if they didn't understand that, you can teach them. What kind of failure is this God that can't teach someone how and why they shouldn't own people? And even if they don't fully understand why they shouldn't, they at least know that this is the way things are, that you should not do that. But anyway, that was me going kind of off track there. I'm sorry, Mark.
I'll take it. Mark, I'll just add this last little thing in. First of all, like what Matt said, don't give yourself such a hard time. I think you should be recognizing how amazing it is that you're showing up honestly in this conversation, that you're wanting to ask questions, especially if you're living in the US and you have a family that's already hyper religious and you grew up this way. It's a wonder that you're asking these questions. I mean, that's already amazing. So that's incredible. Also, I do think it's a muscle. I think it's something we develop over time. Ask Matt about the first time I ever did this show with him versus how I'm doing now. You know, we get better at these things the more that we do them. So the more you engage in skepticism, the easier it's going to come to you, and you're going to start figuring out how to apply it to all kinds of areas of your life. For me, another thing that really helped is I noticed there were some areas that I could pinpoint in my life that I had always applied skepticism to. And I started learning how to acknowledge that so that then I could recognize what that looked like in those scenarios and bring it over into the areas of my life where I had never applied skepticism. So you might want to start there. Ask yourself, where have I always applied skepticism and reason and logic and just been really, more on the pragmatic or more on the practical, logical side of things and go from there. But I think you're already on a great track, and I've really appreciated this phone call, Mark.
Both of you, thank you very much. I'm trying to find building blocks to kind of stave away something that doesn't feel real, and experience is hard, and I'm a little bashful to say that out loud because something triggers that I don't understand at the moment, and I'm looking to speed that up and not go back to maybe what I was taught, which I think you both know, which is Christian faith and Catholicism, and I appreciate the conversation, and I don't need to say much more or waste any of your time, and I really appreciate it.
All good. Mark, have you heard of Recovering from Religion? They have their website, recoveringfromreligion.org, and I would check that out if I were you. They have some amazing resources that'll help you on your path forward.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Mark. Have a good night. Hey, look what happens when there's a theist. Now, granted, to be fair, Mark seems to be possibly engaged in some sort of deconstruction, like, or at least, questioning, or, but it's really, I've done this for 20 years. I'm going to fuck stuff up. Don't get me wrong. That's a given. Like every single show, I'm screwing something up. But after 20 years, the odds are pretty good, I would say, that given me versus the average caller, I have a better understanding of the subject and what questions to ask to get the call to a point where we can figure out where we disagree and why. And that is my primary goal. I'm not here. I would, if in fact there's a God, I want to know. I want to know if I'm wrong. And that requires some demonstration that I'm likely to be wrong, that I am wrong, and how you can tell. Those things are part of it. I don't want to be wrong. If in fact there's a God, I'd like to know. I don't think it's a good idea to believe just because, this is what I need in order to avoid nihilism. I mean, that's the same reason some people drink to oblivion. That to me isn't a good thing. That's like saying, if I'm not completely drunk out of my mind, I have to think about how bad Trump is. So there you go. Drinking is the solution to Trump. No, it's not. And religion isn't the solution to nihilism. It's not the solution to anything. We got another caller on the line here who's been on the hold for an hour and a half. And on that front, without further ado, Paul, pronouns are he, him. Paul's an atheist and wants to talk about what took the longest to shake after deconstructing. So, Paul, assuming you didn't fall asleep in the hour and a half we've had you on hold, you're on with Promise and Matt.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Promise. How are you doing? Yeah, I've just been kind of flipping through Tales of the Batman while I was waiting on. I just kind of wanted to ask, since I kind of, I guess, share a deconversion story along the same lines as two of you. I grew up in independent Baptist, and when I was 20, I went to a secular college after having been in Christian school, and my mother was a Christian school teacher, and so just very ensconced in religion and Christianity, and so. Yeah, when I was 20, I kind of, it's funny because, Matt, I'd called in before hoping to share how I shed my religion. And it happened to be something that you talked about when you talked to Cliff Knechtel, I think was his last name, when you debated him about how, the impossibility of hell. I had the exact same reasoning 25 years ago of how is it possible if my mother goes to heaven and I go to hell? There's no way she could be in eternal bliss because she's going to know that I'm burning in hell for eternity. And as much as she loves me, she either can't be who she is or she doesn't have the same value system that brought her to Christianity in the first place and the promise of seeing her loved ones again. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I never heard anybody else give that exact same explanation. So all that is to say, I guess I shed the fear of hell at that moment. And so one of my struggles was never fear of hell after I deconstructed. The thing that I struggled with, and it was more of a knee-jerk reaction or a visceral reaction, and then a realization of, oh, wait a minute, I don't believe this anymore, was if I ever had someone go missing, like if, let's say, when I was a kid and my mom went out to do some yard work, and this was obviously before cell phones or anything like that, and ways to keep up with people, she would go outside to do yard work, and I'd go out and try to find her, and I couldn't find her immediately. I'm like, oh no, the rapture happened, and I got left behind somehow because I wasn't 100% sure I was going to heaven. And that stuck with me even into my 20s. And I guess by the time I got cell phones, we had constant connection, and I could text my wife to say, hey, where are you? That kind of went away, but I would still have that, 10 years after I deconverted or deconstructed, I would still have that visceral reaction of, oh no, I've been left behind. Wait a minute, that's not a thing. And so just kind of wondering if, and Promise, I think I've heard you talk about this a little bit more, but I'm kind of curious from both of you, especially Matt, of what are the things that I guess either it took you a while to shed or things that have kind of just still affect you, even if it's just an initial knee-jerk reaction that then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't believe that anymore. Does that still happen? Just kind of curious about that.
To me, no.
Okay.
I spent a long time before I actually got to a point where I publicly acknowledged. I remember I drove home from work one day and my roommate was an atheist, and I looked at him and I said, hey, I think I'm kind of agnostic now. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And kept driving. It wasn't long after that I identified as an atheist. And there were a number of things that led up to it. But once I said I'm an atheist, I can tell you, no matter how I may be weird, maybe something wrong with me, but from that moment till now, I have not had a moment where I went, oh my gosh, I think I've made a terrible mistake. I think there might actually be. No, I have wondered if I'm wrong, because that's part of skepticism. And I have engaged with countless people offering nothing but fallacious reasoning and no evidence in support of their various God beliefs. I've devoted my life to this stuff. There was nothing that was difficult for me to let go because I realized a key thing fairly early. And it's the reason I've used this example so many times. If somebody lied to you and said you're going to inherit $1 billion when you turn 18, and you get to 18 and you find out it was a lie, how much more of your life are you going to waste mourning the $1 billion that you never had in the first place? And for me, as a matter of just pragmatic sense, as soon as I found out I wasn't going to be a billionaire when I turned 18, I let it go. I'm like Elsa. It's easy.
Right.
I don't know why. I know it's not like that for other people. I've never had a moment where I was afraid of hell, ever, because I walked down the aisle at the age of 5 and accepted Jesus in my heart. From that moment on, I either thought I was going to heaven or that there wasn't a heaven or hell to go to. So those are the only two options. So I don't have the fear of hell that other people were raised with. And for whatever reason, while we were told, and the whole purpose of us preaching and sharing the gospel and sharing our testimony and interacting with people in visitation after services was because we knew there were people who didn't believe and they were destined for hell. And we had a duty to be a conduit for the Holy Spirit to help save those people so that they could be with us in heaven. But I also grew up in a religion where it's not up to me. God's going to save who he's going to save. My job was to merely be the best reflection of Christ that I could be, and to provide the reason for why I believe to those people who don't. Once I let it go, I was just done. It's never bugged me.
I kind of had that same thing. Like I said, once the impossibility of hell struck me, I'm such a logical person, then I was constantly asked every invitation after every church service, if you're not 100% sure that you're going to heaven, you need to come and get saved. And I've never been 100% sure of anything. So there was always that, well, I'm 99% sure, but that 1%, that still bugs me. So that was the only time that I really feared, like, am I going to hell? But yeah, like you, once I shed it, I lost the fear. For me, it was more of just that thing that was hammered into me for 20 years of my life of, the rapture is going to occur and the non-believers are going to be left behind. It almost became an instinct to me to think that might be the possibility for not being able to find somebody immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned you went down the aisle at age 5. I remember being in the car on the way home from a church service and telling my dad, like, I want to get saved. And we went home and went to, knelt in front of the bed, and then he led me to the Lord and all that. And so, yeah, at age 5, because that scared me, because it was the age of accountability. Like, as soon as you know that you need to be saved, you should be saved, you're going to hell. And so it was almost like a death sentence unless I did something.
I was one of those where I later in life found out I have OCD. So that explained so many of the things I was experiencing. I was terrified that I was going to hell every day, all day, until I turned into a progressive Christian, because logically hell didn't make sense. I basically had the exact same thought process, and it didn't make sense to me anymore. And I, was able to find some theologies that allowed me to continue that while still being a Christian. But so many of the things that I like, to answer your question, so many of the things, the habits and all of that I had were really just OCD in their different forms. I got the really cool kinds of OCD where it shows up in all these random different ways. And so for me, some of that does still show up, but now I'm able to recognize it as OCD. For example, when I get on a plane, I am so terrified of flying. I hate it so much. And I instantly have the OCD prayers that I used to pray back when I was a kid that still go through my mind, what I've learned to do, and I'm noticing them less and less and less, which, keep in mind, I've only been out for 8 years now. So I'm seeing a decline over time of this. I just laugh. I'm like, oh, there's that thing. My, like, poor 12-year-old me was still going through, and now I'm getting better at it. And it's amazing how once I was able to get out of the cult and seek actual help and not just prayers, I was able to resolve a lot of these issues that OCD was causing me, and see how, honestly, religion was perpetuating. I mean, I have religious OCD too, obviously a lot less now, but I will say one that I think is so funny, and I've noticed it now because I'm married now, and my husband and I, this is the first relationship I have where we sit down for most of our meals, because he is an amazing cook and he takes his time to, like, really cook and set the table. So for the first time since I was a kid, we're, like, coming to the table together, sitting down. Now, he was raised completely atheist, secular, never prayed at the table. Well, I always prayed at the table when we sat down. So I always have this moment when we sit down, like right before we eat, where I feel like we're about to pray for our food. And I just giggle every time. Instead, we cheers every time. That's my little thing. But luckily, it's not like a fear or damage that I'm still trying to shake. It's just like this funny moment where I'm like, oh, we're not praying for right now. But I don't know if that answers your question.
Kind of like it does. Yeah, I think it probably is more less scars and fears and more of just kind of old habits die hard. Do you secretly maybe judge him a little bit too? Like, if he's not going to pray, he's not going to, like, oh, how dare you not pray? Oh yeah, we don't pray.
No, I love it. It's, to me, he's like this perfect image of how I wish I had grown up, where I get to just like enjoy what it must have been like and see like, oh, he sits down and has this beautiful present moment of cheers and like eye contact, and we're not having screens out and all this. And, you know, which is, you're taught like growing up, like, oh, atheists are evil and they don't have these connecting moments. They don't do these beautiful things. And like, we still have rituals and we still have, way more now. I have way more connecting present moments, and I don't know. So I don't necessarily have, I don't experience the fear and the damage anymore. Any fear I experience in life is either because of something legit, like the government right now,
The end of the
or
world.
the end of the world that's happening, or it's because of OCD, and I'm able to, instead of praying away demons and sit and read the Bible out loud over and over again for 3 hours, I'm able to talk to a therapist or go back to different tools and skills that I've learned. So I don't know. That's why I advocate for people leaving, because I think it is so much better and so much more freeing. Although I do hear the rapture fear from a lot of people, where they like, somebody doesn't show up and they're like, wait a second, did they get raptured? So I get it. I understand. And I do think it's like our brains were wired to go there in our thought process. And I think it just takes time. And I also think it takes being easy on ourselves and kind of being amused with the situation instead of shaming ourselves or getting upset or frustrated. Just being like, oh, that's hilarious. My brain still does that thing. And it makes sense that it does that thing, because that's what protected it for so many years.
Yep, exactly. That was always my thought process when that happened. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how those things can kind of stick with you, and then just are kind of remnants. And I was going to mention, you said you have OCD. I was diagnosed with panic disorder in my mid-20s, and I always had horrible anxiety as a child. And in my teenage years, it got really bad. And
you should get over that.
I remember, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, what I did was I tried to read the Bible. I was like, when I was 20, I went through a very hard spell, and I think it was the last throes of my Christianity, where I really delved into the Bible. And I remember even like crying and going to my mom and showing her a Bible verse, and like, this verse is just saying exactly what I needed to hear. And looking back on it, I mean, I almost feel embarrassed for myself, because it's so obvious that I was putting on that page what I needed to hear at that moment, and it was so vacuous.
Yep.
That effort.
Yeah, I definitely did the exact same thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned your husband grew up atheist or at least not religious. I wouldn't trade my religious upbringing for the world, because I think it gives me a unique perspective. I talk to a lot of people who grew up in a secular household, and they don't understand why people would vote for Trump. I understand why they vote for Trump. I would never, I think he's the worst thing that's ever happened to this country, but I understand the mentality of that evangelical looking for this godlike figure and being so afraid that they're going to fall for something like the Antichrist, that they fall for the
and then here they are falling for the
interpreted as an Antichrist. Yeah, it's like
right.
Yeah, it reminds me of The Life of Brian. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Life of Brian, which helped me a lot through my deconstruction. But when they're following Brian, he was born in the manger next to Jesus, and then his followers, they start following him because they think he's the Messiah. He was, because he's born next to Jesus. And one person says, "I know you're the Messiah, and I should know I've followed a few." And it's kind of like that, like, it's the same. It's the same type of demagoguery and fear mongering that causes support amongst a lot of Trump supporters, that cause people to listen to their pastors and judge others and have fear of others and feel like you're part of something that you're going to escape from burning in hell for eternity.
Yeah, it's
while
fear-mongering,
trans people or whoever are on the outside. Exactly, yeah. Fear-mongering and elitism. And you hear about, Democrats are elite, but there's nothing more elite than thinking that you're going to heaven and someone else is going to hell. I mean, that's the ultimate.
Sure, yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I do think evangelicals were primed for this sort of leader. I don't want to use that word, but this sort of president. It's not
mhm.
shocking to those of us who grew up this way. So that is a bit of a silver lining. I still don't know that I can. I love that you've been able to spin it that way for yourself, but I still don't know that I would choose to have grown up that way. I much would, my husband's from Finland. He grew up in this amazing country, had all these positive experiences, and I'm like, I don't know. I wish I didn't understand right now why Trump is in office. That would
Yeah,
be kind of nice, but I agree in
right.
that there are the positive aspects to it are being on the outside and still being able to understand. I do love that combination. I
Mhm.
think it's obviously why I do what I do. So, but I appreciate the
And it gives
questions,
you so
Paul.
much more credibility when you speak. Yeah, it gives you so much more credibility when you speak to believers as well, because
Sure, yeah.
you've been on that side of it. You know the arguments, you know the rationale and the mentality of it.
Paul, I appreciate the call. We're going to wrap things up and move on to super chats and everything else. But best of luck, and reach out if you have more questions. Don't forget about recovering from religion and the secular therapy project if you find yourself in need of something like that. But we appreciate you calling in.
All right. Yeah, I've been out for 25 years. I'm good. And
Yep.
I've followed
Love it.
recovering from religion for a while. But thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Anybody calling in to say, hey, I'm interested in deconstruction stuff, I'm always going to point to recovering from religion, because even if you've been out for 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
there might be somebody there that can put you in touch with somebody. And you might also be a really good person to work the volunteer lines.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say.
Yeah, I should think about that. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
look into
We will talk
Thanks,
to you
Paul.
later. Thanks, Paul. All right. I have the super chats all queued up. There's a ton of them.
Yes.
I also want to find out what your husband thinks of the Monty Python song about Finland.
He's probably never every movie I ever ask him, he's never seen it. He was a touring musician starting at 15, so he just didn't watch TV or movies, which is great for me because I was homeschooled Christian, so I also didn't see pretty much anything.
He's also
Oh.
significantly younger than the Monty Python bit that I'm talking about. But Monty Python did a famous song about Finland.
Really?
And the lyrics are Finland, 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 the country where I'd quite want to be, pony trekking or camping. Anyway, it goes through all this. It's
Sounds about
basically, it's
right.
like a commercial advertisement for Finland.
That's great. I was going to ask if I could share one tiny little thing I'm excited about real quick before we do super chats.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you saw, in the midst of all this bullshittery, I got personal good news, which I hope to end up being good news for the greater cause. I am getting published. So I'm working on my book officially. And that will be out with it. I'm getting details, but it's a process that we're officially starting. Oh, do we get to see one of the babies?
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Well,
It's really small, and this tub is not great for hanging on to it. It is jumping like crazy.
You want some help?
I can't even grab it because it's.
You're right.
Does it have a name?
Oh, she just bit me.
Did she?
Yeah.
There we go. So this is one of the
Oh, my
two
goodness.
babies that arrived today. This is a T-negative albino African house snake that is also het for blue-eyed leucistic. And we got a pair of these in this morning. They are,
Luckily, she's...
how old is it? A couple of weeks or a month.
No, I think she's like 4 months old or something like that.
You can see through her when you hold her up to that
is
light.
Wild.
Oh yeah.
I can see
Wow.
her lungs, her stomach, all of her organs. You can do that a lot with albinos when you get light behind them. They are a little translucent, and they're going to be light sensitive.
Luckily, her mouth is really small, so her bite didn't felt like Velcro.
I'm amazed you noticed it.
Does she have a name?
All right. So that we haven't named it. We literally picked that one and her sister up this morning. So I don't know that Arden has named them yet.
No.
So cute.
Oh, I need to go back because I put it up, but I didn't read it. $10 from Jamnick06. If it weren't for the last minute, I'd never get anything done. True.
Same.
True.
$10 from One-Eyed Heathen. Not feeling well, so going to lay down. So here's some money.
Oh.
Congressman Al Green is a Chad. More Democrats need to disrupt decorum and gum of the works of the Putin-Musk administration. Feel better.
True.
And yes, agreed.
Yeah. Get yourself some rest. $10 from Tattooed Granny. Speaking of stupid 47, he cannot seem to make out the difference between transgender mice and transgenic mice. He canceled an $8 million research program using transgender mice. Triggered much. To be fair, I'm not convinced that he canceled any program other than they pointed out that there were 6 programs that totaled $8 million in research using transgenic mice in ways that I mentioned it in the opening to the show. But yeah. It's absolutely wild.
$10 from the Raven 200. Butts. Of course, that's the one I get. Thanks, Raven.
And also, I had a meme sent to me today that was from a funeral, and they had printed up a quote on there that says, "Remember, you are but dust, and to dust you will return." Except that where it said "but dust," it was BUTT dust. So the whole thing was, remember, you're butt dust.
Wow. Oh, man.
Gotta like that. $10 from Janet06. Hope you feel better soon, Jimmy, and happy birthday. Hashtag go fuck yourself, Jimmy. True.
Yes, lots of happy
slacker,
birthdays to Jimmy.
That slacker built me up. We're going to do this birthday show. We're going to do everything to... And then he's like, my sinuses are a little hurt. I think I'm going to... Can promise do the show instead of me. At some point, he's going to watch this, maybe, and be like, I don't sound like that. Correct.
$9.99 from Greg Murkowski. Matt and Promise, a dream team. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Go fuck yourself. Thanks, Greg.
True. $20 from Brian Alaspa. Congratulations on your big news today, Promise. Hooray.
Thank
And that
you.
was out long before you talked about it on the show.
I announced it earlier today. I've been waiting to announce it. Every time somebody's asked, because this has been you guys, book deals take so long when you're going with a bigger publisher. And so every time somebody's asked me the last 6 months, are you going to write a book? And I've had to just keep my mouth shut. Meanwhile, I was working on it. So it's happening, in the works. Can't wait.
Makes me jealous.
You should write one.
I've got 4 of them outlined and started, and the first one is there's just too much other stuff, and I can reach more people quicker with a video than I can with a book. A great first book selling 10,000 copies would be fucking amazing, but I can get 10,000 views in a day.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to try to do both at once, but so far I have never made one single YouTube video, so I'm going to do the book first. $10 from Monkey at Typewriter. Feels like caring, sincerity, genuine thought have all been recategorized as, and this is the technical term, gay leftist bullshit by a giant portion of the country. And that's what kills me. Oh, they literally called empathy a sin. So yes, that is very true. Thanks, Monkey.
I got an easy one here. $50 from Tamika. And that's it. That's the whole thing. And so I'll just say, thank you so very much. That's incredibly generous and kind of you, Tamika.
$10 from Courtney Lord. Pro-lifers should fund the heck out of studies for trans tech so cis men can carry the fetuses they fathered when their wives get an abortion if they really care about babies more than controlling women.
True.
Great idea. Something tells me they wouldn't go for that.
I like it's probably not entirely true, but the notion that if men got pregnant, you could get an abortion in Starbucks.
Either that or there would be no more people.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we can't handle the pain. $10 from the Raven 200. It still doesn't feel real that John Cena is a heel now. He looked bad. The more I think of the possibilities, the more I want to see him go full Denon timing. Cena can be a menace on the mic when he wants to be. I think he looked bad. Not awful, but and it's like it's like too little, too late. It's let's do this at the end of the career, the retirement. The, ooh, we're gonna go heal. It's not gonna matter. Ooh, Rock is Hollywood. Anyway, enough with me getting distracted by wrestling that I don't even really watch. I just happen to see it in part because Jon Stewart used it as an analogy to what happened in the fucking Oval Office with Zelensky, where Zelensky got kicked in the nuts by Cena and The Rock.
$10 Canadian from David Haxer. Has anyone ever seen Promise and Eve Was Framed at the same time? Just saying. It's hilarious because
I have.
I know. True. I know this is kind of a joke, but some people have actually gotten mad and like DM'd me and said that, hey, they're labeling this as you, but this was Eve, and you need to tell them this is Prom. Like, people have actually gotten confused. So hopefully we're all learning now. My name is Promise. And it's actually also, people don't believe that that is the name that I was given when I was born. And it is. That is my evangelical scar. It's kind of really great evidence for the way I grew up right there.
That's fair. Oh, another $10 from Tamika. I'm talking to God. God, stop this super chat. God did not stop your super chat. It failed.
Somebody tell, what's his name? $9.99 from Bag of Kims. Simply, V. Zelensky doesn't trust Trump. Why should he? Garbage in, garbage out. Always enjoy the content. Thanks. Yeah, and I'm sure
I got
at this
another
point,
easy one.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm sure at this point, Zelensky is not even worried so much about who he can trust. He's just trying to get help for his country and figure out what to do right now, immediately. So, yeah.
Yeah. Raven 200. Oh, sorry. LA Silver Surfers, $10. Thank you, LA Silver Surfers. How are you? Thank you so much. I was already reading this one.
You were already ready for it. $10 from the Raven 200. Jimmy, happy birthday and get well soon. Go take an attitude adjustment through a table from John Cena, then a people's elbow from The Rock, then a stink face from, how do you say that? Rikishi for every of your birthdays. We'll
Rikishi's got a big booty and would rub it in people's faces in the ring. $20 from Quantum Chaos. Everything is garbage. Here's some money. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Today is also my daughter's birthday, and she's also sick, which sucks. Oh, man. Anyways, how are you guys doing? Not too bad. Super Chat gives me 225 characters, so I feel like I need... I hope I did your $20 of fake money justice.
$10 for Monkey a Typewriter. For Mark, consider your emotional state can change your perceptions and memories of their passings. Often the questions come from a desire to cope emotionally rather than consider logic. Much love. Yes, absolutely that too.
I'm sorry. Aaron Ra is calling me.
Are you going to answer it?
No. I'm going to send him a text saying I'm literally live on the show right now.
As opposed to every other Wednesday night when you're not?
$10 from SJL. My father towards the end leaned over and was fiddling with the curtains. Hospital. I asked and he told me he was going to light this place on fire. I never saw anything mystical in that.
That's great, though. That's a fun story. $19.99 from Homespun Covers. Oh, that's from our caller tonight, Frank. Wanted to say, my wife is a Christian who laughed at me for being an atheist. I purposely had the shows on while she is in the room. She makes fun of the theist rebuttals, and she thinks Promise sounds like a therapist. I'll take it as a compliment, I guess. But that's great that you have that playing. That's a cool idea. Thanks, Homespun.
I just sent Aaron a message that says I'm literally live right now like every other Wednesday. And I put a smiley on it. He's a friend. I'm not being a dick.
That's very Aaron.
I'm hoping his call wasn't important. Like, oh my gosh, somebody died and I needed to do something. But $10 from the Raven again. Now, once upon a time, not long ago, there was a little Jimmy about to go. Then he made the line, and I guess it was fine, except for when someone calls into wine. More rhymes from me coming. Never. Well done.
$10 from Aaliyah Shauna Silverbow. Why don't pirates shower before they walk the plank? Because they'll just wash up on shore later. Why was the pirate movie rated R? Too much booty. Hashtag promise needs an eye patch. This is true. Hashtag R. It's because I have the worst eye twitch ever. If anybody noticed me going like that, I wasn't crying. It's just I use this skincare product, tretinoin, and I got too aggressive with it and too close to my eyes. And I've now developed dry eye this week. And this eye actually started twitching Sunday night when Forrest and I were on and hasn't stopped much since then. So that's really exciting for me. I do need an eye patch.
I actually have a box of eye patches.
I was about to say, I feel like I
somewhere.
remember you wearing one for a bit.
Yeah,
Weren't you having
for
double vision or something?
several months. Several months I had
It was back when I was a fan and not a co-host.
Yeah, I had some nerve damage on the muscles that control my eyes, and so I was basically having cross-eyed vision, and so we gave me an eye patch for a while to help. Arr.
Miserable.
It wasn't fun, but at least it healed and got better. And now I need better glasses, but at least my vision isn't, I don't have double vision the way I used to. $20 from Samuel Stone. Thank you to all the hosts for continuing to fight and the continued support for the RFR. You bet. There's going to be more support coming for RFR.
$66.66 from Rick, lifelong atheist here, but after the past 6 weeks, I would now almost be inclined to accept that Trump is the Antichrist. Yeah, I can see why. And thanks so much for the support, Rick.
All right. Yes, thank you. And I understand the sentiment. But see that button giving you the sultry eyes? See that lovely, thick, sensual like button? That like button wants to consensually get passed around by all of you. Go ahead. Hashtag kinky like button gang. Thank you so much, Raven.
$10 from JamNick06. Pirates can get earrings for $2 per. Wait. What am I reading wrong here? $2 per, which isn't bad for a buccaneer. Wow. A pie costs $5 in the Bahamas. I just walked right into that. $4 in Barbados and $3 in Cuba. Those are pie rates of the Caribbean. Hashtag eye patch for Eve. Promise.
That's
Thanks,
awesome.
See,
you guys are great because no matter how pissed I get at dipshits like Larry for just failing epically to even be able to carry on a point-driven conversation in the slightest, then you guys come in with these jokes at the end, and it's just, I'm having a good time. $10 from El Hison. Love you guys. Love the show. Would love to meet y'all Sunday when we all wake up from this awful dream nightmare where this dangerous buffoon's president. Wait, what? Oh, crap. This is real? Yeah. There's still talk about LineCon, something we were going to do a year or two ago. And there's a number of reasons that it just didn't happen. And it's probably a good thing it didn't happen. I would say that probably within the next couple of years, two to 3 years, maybe after we get past President Trump, I would say that there's a really good chance that there will be some kind of LineCon. And honestly, I think it's about time that we did another Austin meetup. I know that there's not as many people in Austin here tied to the line as there are, tied to other organizations and stuff. But there were a bunch of people who came. Yeah, there were a bunch of people who came out for dinner, and we should definitely do it again. It's just Jimmy's busy, I'm busy. Arden works more than any three people put together. So yes, Arden getting to work 17 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. That is what I sacrifice for you guys. I sacrifice time with the woman I love so that you guys can get more content.
$10 from Weston Campbell. Mr. Chow, can you assure me, or can you at least tell me that if you turn on aeroplane mode on a plane, can TikTok talk to the plane, please? Also, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
No kidding. What can TikTok do? $10 from Joanne Bell. Congrats on getting published, promise. And thank you guys for doing the show, especially these days. Happy birthday to Jimmy. I hope he feels better soon.
Thank you so much,
Me
Joanne.
too. I hope Jimmy feels better soon too, but don't tell him. $20. Yeah.
I think this is me. $20 from Stephen G. Clinard. Is $20 enough to have Matt swear at me?
Fucking A, it is. You fucking donor. Thanks for the fucking money. You're fucking awesome. $20. That's two fingers.
See,
Hey,
people could just
Stephen
donate
G.
support to the show instead of calling and being dishonest. You can still, you can get what you want both ways.
Is $20 enough to have promise swear at me?
Probably not. I actually, so I do cuss. I don't feel like I cuss at people. The fact that I'm calling it cussing also probably is revealing that I'm very homeschooled. But somebody made some whole thing on my Facebook the other day because I posted a clip from the show where I said that somebody's God was fucking awful, which is one of the few times I will break out that word, is generally when I'm talking about a God claim, because it's usually fucking awful. So there, I did swear because I had to tell a story, but I'm not going to swear at you because then I'll feel bad.
$20 is enough to get promise to swear in your vicinity, but not directed at you specifically.
Yeah, there we go.
Because she's either
one of my
way nicer than me. Yeah. She's either way nicer than me or less interested in getting you guys to donate, because quite frankly, I think, no, she's probably more interested, because $20 isn't enough to get promise to swear at you, which means now, even though there's only 4 super chats left for us to read, you guys should see exactly how much it takes to get promise to swear at you.
I'm going to be so awkward if it's forced. I feel like I need to chat GPT, ways to casually swear. Is this one mine?
For $25, she'll casually swear at you. For $100, she'll cuss out your mom.
Maybe. Depends on what you tell me about your mom. $10 from the Raven 200. To be fair, Matt, if there was any time to turn Cena heel, it would be now. A Cena heel turn never would have happened under Vince, and during his retirement tour has potential considering his experience.
I agree. It's just,
and I'll agree since Matt's agreeing, because I don't know what any of this means.
I don't know. Raven, you don't have to do another super chat to answer, and we'll talk about it another time. John looked old to me, more so than The Rock. Even Rocky looks older, but he is older. I mean, these guys are, they're not quite my age, but they're up there, and they look rough. And it makes sense that John's retiring. It makes sense that Rocky's doing this kind of, he's the new Hollywood Hulk Hogan, which is good because none of us want to hear from Hulk. But anyway, $10 from Godfrey in Good. I recently saw a video asking which one of us is adopted, with 2 women that looked like Promise and a black guy. It was hilarious. I had no idea she has a doppelganger and is adopted.
So
That's
what
funny.
Godfrey's referring to is, I have 3 sisters and a brother. My brother is adopted. He's from Rwanda, so he's black. And my sisters and I all look exactly alike. And so we made this video. It was my idea, where we introduced ourselves. I said, I'm Promise, I'm the oldest. And then each of them went, I'm Justice, I'm black. And I should preface, we started it with guess who's adopted. So we just all look alike. And then it gets to my brother. He says, and I'm Enric. It got 13 million views or something. Of all the things I made, that's the one that went viral, but it was great. My brother thought it was the funniest thing ever.
I think that's brilliant. My niece and nephew are both adopted, and they are the most awesome. No 2 ways about it. Just the most awesome. And I had already kind of come to grips with a number of different things long before my brother adopted either of them, which was, I don't give a shit if we're related by blood. You're family if you act like family. And I want the people in my life, I consider the people in my life family based on our interactions, not based on our relationship. And so it doesn't matter to me if somebody's adopted or not, or family by marriage or not, family by just association. You know, someday, if I play my cards right, Promise will essentially be a sister to me. It's just you can't be this deep in the movement, working side by side and doing all this stuff and not ending up feeling like everybody is family.
Family.
And
Yep.
I'd much rather have the family around me that I like and that likes me, than those other fuckers that I happen to be related to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's what's my brother wasn't adopted until he and I are the same age. So we were 18. That's when he came into our family. And I don't know how to explain it other than we all were like, this is our brother. Like, there's no, like, we click like that. Like, he's part of the like, he is what made our family. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. And we're so alike. That's also wild. We all have such similar tastes. Like on Christmas, we're opening up things, and we didn't actually grow up together. So it shows it's more about the shared values and how you view life and all of that. So
It's I don't know why it should be surprising to anybody, because I get it. Setting aside the people who maybe, haven't fallen in love, but Arden and I joke about how we kind of share a mind a number of times. We have so many the same interests. We have a wide age gap between us. And despite that, the overlap in interests and views on things is just, we just kind of instantly, I can't even snap, my fingers aren't working. We just kind of instantly clicked. It was just, boom, yep, she's my person.
I love that.
I don't even believe in that.
There's people that are just like,
bullshit, but
you're people. Yeah, same. But then it happens.
yep. $20 from Green Man Dave. Happy Ashy Wednesday. Don't forget to moisturize. Also, happy birthday, Jimmy. Go bag your ash.
Seeing all the people walking around today with their ash cross things, I completely forgot that Ash Wednesday was even a thing, and then was like, oh, that's why. $10
I didn't
from Mr.
see a
Zoltak.
single person.
Oh, well, I'm in Tennessee. I saw a lot of them. Well, you're in Texas though, so I don't know why.
I didn't go out.
There you go. $10 from Mr. Zoltak. I can understand why people get defensive when their cherished beliefs that they've held for a while are scrutinized. But why not get better than get bitter? What does being bitter achieve? Sorry, I'm losing my ability to speak right now. But yes, agreed. And thank you.
$10 from OPB0. What's your position on antinatalism? I put up a video on my channel. So if you go to YouTube and go to my Sans Deity channel, there's a video up there with my response to a particular argument for antinatalism. But I find the antinatalist position to be ridiculous and not worth my time.
I would agree.
You can't possibly get consent, and yet all of us are here without consent. And once you're an adult, if you don't want to stay here anymore and you want to join the voluntary human extinction movement, which is a real thing, except for some reason, they don't make themselves extinct. They work to make others make us all extinct, sort of thing. And, you get to do that.
$10 from Aaliyah Shauna Silverbow. A red and a blue pirate ship just collided in the Caribbean. Apparently the survivors are marooned. Hashtag Eve was eye patched. That's really good.
Speaking of survivors, we got some Survivor to watch tonight after this is over. $100 from Rick. Promise to swear at me.
Shit. $100 gets shit. That's the best I got. That's the best I can do, you guys. Look, I'm turning red just from saying shit for no good reason. I have to have better reasons.
It's for a good reason. Wait till you see this. So Rick gave $100. But then $50 from El Hisson will promise swear to the great El Hisson in the sky for $50.
Okay, at least they're giving me like an object I can, send it to, so we can say fuck the great El Hisoni in the sky. I slipped one out. That was your combined efforts. I'll just say that.
It's all for a good cause. So this is the thing about negative perception. There are words that I won't use, and somebody could drop a super chat for $50,000 and say, "Will Matt say this word?" And my answer is fucking A, I will, for $50,000.
Yeah.
There are very few words that I would not find a way to say for $50,000 to let people know, hey, my sincere apologies. I know that the word they're making me utter is particularly difficult and troublesome for you, and I oppose it in every way. But for $50,000 for the cause, congratulations. I'm now going to drop whatever word that they said. I can also say that pretty comfortably, confident that nobody's going to drop $50,000 in a super chat.
Fair. $50 from Jamnick06. I make poop jokes. You don't like poop jokes, do you? Promise? I don't, and you guys know this. Maybe you want to swear at me. Go ahead, cuss at me. You know I deserve it. Just imagine that I'm a misogynistic bigot. Otherwise, #return of the poop jokes. Okay, I will say fuck poop jokes because I don't like them at all. I don't like yucky things. I'm not here for it.
Okay.
It's not my thing. That's the nanny in me that says like no potty talk.
I will try not to do any poop jokes while we're here. On that note, I find it funny that the person who wouldn't say poop jokes or doesn't like poop jokes, the only curse word they could come up to say was shit when push came to shove. Like, I don't like poop jokes, but shit's okay.
Oh my God.
So, first of all,
that's what came to mind.
Happy birthday, Jimmy. Sorry you're feeling poorly. Sorry you couldn't be here with us. We love you. We hope you get better soon. I hope you're having fun. For everybody who tuned in and helped out and called the show, thank you. Including you, Larry. Thank you. But genuinely, I've said this for decades now. I just want people who believe things that I don't believe to explain it to the rest of us in a way that might be useful to us. Because if I'm wrong, I would like to not continue being wrong. But if I say, can you demonstrate God to me? And you say, all you have to do is seek him. You are now so boring and dishonest in communication that when you say seek him, I only think of that Britney Spears song, If You Seek Amy. My brain just goes off on that because at least there's some fucking substance there beyond, well, you just need to seek the Lord. Well, congratulations. How do I do that? How should I seek the Lord best to be able to find the Lord? It's wild to me that all I really want is for somebody to say, hey, I believe in God for this reason. And then we discuss it. And it's like, yeah, I don't think that's a good reason. I'm not going to agree. And then that person's like, well, I think you're wrong, but it's enough to convince me. Because what we're really talking about here is, what are your standards of evidence? And there's this claim that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I'm going to be doing another video kind of talking about this because it's not true. And yet it is true. And by that, I mean that the claim is extraordinary because there's not a lot of evidence for it. If there's a lot of evidence for something, it is not an extraordinary claim. This is a computer mouse in my hand. There's nothing extraordinary about that claim. We have mountains of evidence of computer mice being made and manufactured, and I can look at the serial numbers and I can see, ooh, look, it's a Basilisk V2 and made by Razer and all this. There's nothing extraordinary about that claim because we already have all of the evidence. The God claim isn't extraordinary in the sense that, ooh, it needs better evidence or more evidence than something else. It's just that I have a bucket full of evidence that mice are real. and the bucket for evidence for God is still empty. And so you've got to fill that bucket up until it's at least on par with the mouse one in order to say we have two believable claims that have sufficient evidence. But it's not that the claim is extraordinary. It's that the claim is inconsistent with the observable facts about reality. And it could be true. I'm not saying that God is possible. I'm saying that for all we know, the claim could be true. I just need somebody to demonstrate it. And if that's not you, that's fine. If you're like, I just believe and I don't want to talk about it, you don't have to call. But for the people who think that we're wrong, that there's something broken about us, that we are in danger of a terrible afterlife and a terrible life and all kinds of things, if that's what you genuinely believe, there are many shows right here on the line where you can call in. In addition to tonight's show, tomorrow's a transatlantic call-in show. I don't have the list in front of me.
I don't have it either.
It's all right. Don't worry about it.
I think it's on Sunday show. I've got the calendar view for the line up here right now. Transatlantic call-in show is tomorrow with Josie and a name that's so small in the screenshot I can't read it. Ben.
It was supposed to be Ben. Ben actually had to cancel, so it's going to be Josie and Lux tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry we're going to miss Ben, but great to have Lux back on. Anyway, tune in tomorrow for Transatlantic Call-In Show, 2 p.m. Central. Josie and Lux will be there, and they will also have the updated schedule for all the other things that are coming up. Like, for example, on the Sunday show, like I'm on the early Sunday show, and Forrest is on the late Sunday show. I don't see any other names listed. Maybe Forrest and I will just do a Sunday show together from 2 p.m. Central till 10 p.m. Central. Just an 8-hour Sunday show with the two of us. Arden is in there going, why the fuck did you just say that?
All right, if you want to find a completely different producer to produce and manage your show.
I knew that was next.
I don't ever want another producer, but I think I could maybe talk Morgan into it, but you never know. Anyway, on that note, huge thank you to everybody for tuning in today. Thank you to Promise for agreeing to join me when Jimmy couldn't make it because Jimmy's sick and kind of sucks a little bit. So go fuck yourself, Jimmy. But also thank you to our call screeners, our moderators, and to Arden for producing. There's a list of all the people. If you're not already following, follow, like, subscribe. Go to patreon.com/calltheline. Go to linemerch.com. Click on things, even if you don't buy things, because it actually helps us. We'll see you guys tomorrow.